Serial Killers, Psychological, by Sherif Nasr. We open up to a story of mayhem and a serial killer. Hi, Mike, how are you doing today? I'm okay, Steve. Hey, Mike, how do you like the great outdoors? It's awesome, Steve. Now all we have to do is look for our dream job of being a brain surgeon. We both graduated from Stanford, and we achieved a very good grade point average. Yes, I know. You hear laughing women in the background. The sky is a light blue, and the trees are green with healthy-looking leaves. Hey, ladies, want to have some fun? As Mike shouted nicely at the ladies. The ladies decided to come to them and have a talk. What are your names? As the three women exclaimed. I am Amy, and these are my friends, Annabelle and Lucy. So what do you ladies do for fun? As Steve replied back to all three ladies. The ladies replied back and said, we love men like you, and because you guys are dressed nicely, I mean conservative, and dressy looking. So Mike and Steve started to chat about their previous adventures with losing their parents to a drunken driving accident. Mike and Steve are brothers. Time went by, and they each decided to go into the ladies' van. The white discolored van was a Ford. It looked like what you'd get out of a horror movie. They soon decided to drive to a nightclub where they settled there. The ladies talked amongst themselves as they departed from Mike and Steve for a few feet. Yes, I know that Mike is cute, as Annabelle responded to Lucy. Amy was just drinking a red wine to let time pass by. All of a sudden, Amy walked by Steve, and she handled an X-Acto blade. She cut Steve on his hand. Ouch! What was that for, Amy? Because I have deep and marvelous thoughts about you, Steve. Mike was busy with the other two ladies. So, Mike, what do you call a fun time? Mike answered to the both women that he loves Steve, and they always hang out together whenever there are fast and/or difficult times. Hey, there's a pool in here, as Annabelle shouted. So Mike and Steve took off their clothes and started to skinny dip. Annabelle quickly jumped into the pool and took off her t-shirt. Annabelle had big tits, probably size D. Lucy and Amy stayed behind. Mike was talking to Steve and decided for Mike to get out of the pool to go and hang out with Lucy and Amy. Hey, Steve, want to eat me out in the water? So Steve grunted and asked what that meant to eat her out. You know, eat my pussy. You know, to use your mouth and tongue to lick and suck my vagina. So Steve quickly came closer to Annabelle, and he started to lick and suck Annabelle's pussy underwater. Time passed by, and Lucy and Amy just sat at the front of the table where they served drinks. 2 rum and cokes, please, bartender. Annabelle soon came out of the water with Steve. Have a drink, Annabelle? Annabelle quickly put on her t-shirt that read, We Hate Dexter. Lucy and Amy started to come closer to Annabelle with Steve around. Mike questioned Annabelle about her fascinating t-shirt and where she got it and what that was all about. Annabelle told Mike that it was her worst movie trilogy ever, how it was about a serial killer named Dexter. Lucy and Amy started a chat with Steve. Hey, Steve, what's your favorite horror film? Steve answered that he loves Dr. Giggles, so Annabelle quickly decided to call Lucy and Amy, as both of them felt buzzed from the rum and coke. Hey, Annabelle, as Lucy exclaimed, let's go and dance on the dance floor. Mike and Steve also decided to go on the dance floor. So as Annabelle and Lucy danced together, Mike and Steve danced alone. Annabelle and Lucy really wanted to dance with Mike and Steve, but the two ladies exclaimed that they did not know them both. Is this some kind of a joke, Annabelle and Lucy? Annabelle and Lucy answered back to them that they both do not remember the both of them, so please leave them alone. Amy started to talk to Annabelle and Lucy, so Annabelle and Lucy said that they know Amy, and where has she been? So then why don't you know me, Annabelle? As Steve said while dancing on the dance floor. Annabelle answered back to Steve and said, Who are you, and why the fucking shit you leave me alone? Lucy quickly came towards Mike, and she had a cigarette in her hand. She burned Mike's hand. You can hear the sizzle as she strongly pressed the heater of the cigarette to Mike's hand. I had enough of these crazy bitches. Let's leave, Steve. So as Steve and Mike got off the dance floor, the two ladies also got off the dance floor. We are kidding, Mike and Steve. Let's go to the bathroom to urinate. So then why did you burn me, Lucy, with the heater of the cigarette? Because I love how you are kind and acting so intelligently with me. Aw, fuck, that really burns, Lucy. It's going to leave a deep scar. So Annabelle and Amy sat down in one of the stalls and started to pee. Amy decided to pee in a bottle. They both finished peeing and came back out to see Mike and Steve. "Hey, Mike, I dare you to drink my pee. Yes, can you drink my urine, Mike?" "And what would you do for me if I drink your pee, Amy?" "You get to fuck me in my pussy, and you also get to anal fuck me." So Mike took a hold of Amy's bottle that contained her urine, and he started to gulp it down his esophagus. "So Amy answered you win. Let's quickly go to the bathroom and you could fuck me. Do you have a condom?" "No." "It's okay, let's go to the bathroom." So as she spread her legs for Mike, Mike took out his penis and started to fuck Amy in her pussy. Annabelle and Lucy just hung around Steve and had a chat with each other. So Annabelle and Lucy started to giggle at Steve, but Steve did not know why they were giggling. "Why are you girls giggling? What is so funny that I also want to laugh?" So as the two girls were giggling, they started to stop giggling. "We will tell you as soon as Mike stops fucking Amy in her pussy and ass." Now there stood Annabelle and Lucy with not even a smirk on their faces at Steve. "Ah, finally, I just fucked Amy in her pussy and ass. Hey, what is all the silent treatment you girls are giving us?" "Wait, I will answer for Annabelle and Lucy. Okay, Steve and Mike, this is a place for serial killers, and you both will soon be killed." "No, she is joking, Mike." "Yes, they are joking, Steve." All of a sudden, all the doors close in the entire place. Everyone stops dancing on the floor, and Mike and Steve look at each other and say, "Oh shit." So 3 bouncers come to Steve and Mike to restrain them both. Steve and Mike were handcuffed to each other's back while sitting on the chairs. "Let us out of these fucking handcuffs!" Steve and Mike are tied down really hard with both of their feet and hands tied back. "I have shears in my hands, and do you know what I am going to do?" both of the Stanford boys said. "Ah, she just cut my middle finger off," as Mike exclaimed to Steve. "You fucking bitch, you fucking whore." So Annabelle cut off Mike's finger and fed his finger to some cannibals that silently hung in the corner of the establishment. Lucy had a gun with 3 bullets in them. "Pow! You shot me in my leg!" So you can hear Steve's screams all over the room, but the room and the building is soundproof. The girls were laughing, but in an evil, sinister way. "I know." Amy got a big, thick dildo and unhandcuffed Steve and Mike as the 3 bouncers who were insane men who claimed to be bouncers. As they were being unhandcuffed, Mike bit one of the bouncers' cheek off. "Ah, you fucking asshole, you bit a part of my cheek off." Blood dripped on the dance floor as there were men who practiced Kabbalah. They licked the bloody floor. There were 2 of them that practiced Kabbalah. But Mike and Steve were restrained again, handled like paper dolls. They were tied from the knees to their necks this time. Annabelle took off Steve's khakis and started to fuck him with a thick dildo in his ass. You can hear his screams as there was much blood from Steve's ass trickling down his leg. Lucy took a hammer and knocked Mike out cold, and every time he got knocked out, Lucy would hit him again and again in his head. Mike was tied from his neck right to his neck and was knocked out several times. Amy just laughed in the background while she was fucked by one of the bouncers, while she watched and mounted at the fact a bouncer who is presumed insane just fucked her in her pussy. Amy was sneaking a peek at what Mike and Steve were going through, but she just laughed. Annabelle said that she had had enough, and she had a spoon in her hand. She came up close to Steve and plucked out his left eyeball. All you could hear is bone-chilling screams. Blood squirted out of Steve's eyeball, and then he fainted. Mike soon regained consciousness, and Lucy came to Mike and snipped off his penis with shears. "Ah, you cut off my dick, you bitch!" Blood squirted out of Mike's stump, which there used to be a dick but not anymore. Lucy took a hot iron to Mike's stump of a penis. "It burns, you bitch!" Annabelle had a chainsaw, holding it in both hands. "You cut off my right arm!" Steve's arm was cut off, and he was terribly bleeding from it. The next morning came by, and the insane bouncers were nowhere to be seen. Mike and Steve woke up, but Steve bled to death, and Mike was left. "You know what you are? A sick fuck," as Annabelle said. This was Annabelle's discussion to Lucy and Amy while they were talking to each other in their break at work. Mike and Steve was 2 guys that Annabelle always hated. So now you know Annabelle's story.